And so very briefly, let's get into it, and then we'll get to the rest of the show. And what I would tell you is, it was incredible. It was phenomenal. You guys all watch it. You don't need me to go minute by minute, but it was essentially, it starts with kind of the end of the run, the start of the sixth championship run, and it works its way back, and it has all the different storylines. And so what I really did during the documentary, I knew I was going to do this. I actually did a Periscope immediately following the documentary, and I wrote down 4 or 5 notes that I wanted to share, just quick thoughts. And you guys can always, by the way, you can always let me know what you think about the documentary on, Aaron Torres Podcast page. You can shoot me a DM. You can shoot me a DM on Twitter at Aaron_Torres. Send me an email, Aaron Torres Podcast Questions @gmail.com. Whatever you want to do. Let me know what your thoughts were on the documentary. But I think my biggest thoughts were very simply this. The first one, it was a bad day to be a LeBron stan, okay? And I'll just say this. I like LeBron. I've always defended LeBron. And I don't want to do the whole MJ is so much greater than LeBron. LeBron's terrible. No, they can both be unbelievable players. LeBron is probably the most skilled, gifted player that I've ever seen. But I think when you watch that documentary, I don't know how anyone will ever again be able to argue. And we're only through 2 episodes, by the way. We're not even through all 10. But I don't know how anyone will be able to argue that anyone other than LeBron James is the greatest player in the history of basketball. I think the debate is done. I think it's over. Personally, for me, I thought it's over for about a year. When LeBron left Cleveland, he goes to LA. The team struggles. He quits on the team. He tries to trade the whole team for Anthony Davis. The trade falls through, and he basically quit on the team. He stopped playing. He sat at the end of the bench. He phased out Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram. But my opinion of it is independent of the fact that after this documentary, I don't think you can argue that LeBron is the greatest player anymore. First of all, I'm not going to do the whole Skip Bayless six championships and 0 losses in the championship, because the bottom line is that, oh, by the way, there's always caveats and circumstances. Michael Jordan never faced a super team like LeBron. But I think that when you factor in all of the variables, 6 championships in 6 attempts, the will, the want to, the effort, the desire, how can you argue that anybody other than Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time? So 2 things stood out to me in the documentary as it happened in real time that I thought to me proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, Michael was just different, dude. And there were tough guys after him, and Kobe, to his credit, rest in peace. This was a guy that, never forget, tore his Achilles, walked off the bench, and made free throws. I mean, that is a tough MF. But 2 things stood out to me in this Michael Jordan documentary. The first thing was, in the first hour, when the team is in France playing an exhibition game, and it first becomes apparent that Scottie Pippen just is checked out. He doesn't care. He's not into it. He wants more money. He's demanding a trade, all that stuff. Michael still went out in an exhibition game, not against another NBA team, mind you, but against a bunch of French chumps, and just destroyed people. And I just said, that's why Michael's Michael. That's why there's nobody in the league like them. You can't even get NBA guys to show up in uniform for preseason games now, and Michael is going out there against a bunch of French dudes that are never going to play in the NBA and destroys them. So that was the first thing that stood out to me. Is in a meaningless preseason game, he is going out there and killing it. That's why there will never be another Michael Jordan. The second thing, y'all saw with your own 2 eyes, broken foot, 10% chance that if he plays on it, he could have a career-ending injury in year 2 when they have no chance to win a championship. What does Michael Jordan do? Screw it. I don't care about that 10%. I'm going to trust the 90%. Put me out there. That is something no one would do. We have guys sitting out now with load management when they are fully healthy, and that's not necessarily a knock on LeBron. But you have guys sitting out with load management now, and MJ with a potential career-ending injury is going out there and playing. So that was my first takeaway. You can't, the argument's over. The debate is over. There is no more conversation. There's just, you cannot argue it anymore with LeBron, who has been an incredible player. This isn't a knock on him. This isn't to say that he's terrible, that he's overrated. No, he's awesome. I saw him go against a super team with the Golden State Warriors. I saw him beat the single greatest team, regular season team in NBA history, the Golden State Warriors, who went 73-9. I saw him beat that team, and he embarrassed them to the point that they had to go out and get the second best player on the planet to compete with LeBron. So this isn't a tear down LeBron thing. This is an elevate Michael thing. Couple other points that I saw. 2, I forgot how big this team was, right? And we do this thing now, and I talked about it on Periscope of, the Miami Heat are so big, and the Lakers with LeBron, and the Cavs, and this, and the Warriors. There is nothing like the Chicago Bulls second three-peat in the late 90s. There's just nothing. There's nothing to compare it to. There's no want to. I mean, the part that killed me was when Michael Jordan was in France at the Taylor, and the Taylor is trying to sneak in an autograph, and the PR people are like, dude, you got to chill out. There was never anything like Michael and the Bulls. There never will be again. Second three-peat in a row. By the way, shout out to Michael, cut from his high school team. Again, this just goes back to it's a different era. He shows up ready to work, all that stuff. So again, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so bear with me. Third point, Scottie freaking Pippen, man. First of all, the video of him at Central Arkansas, my goodness. Scottie Pippen was a dog, and he was mean, and he was a bad dude. And I knew the story about he was an equipment manager that figured out a way to get on the team. I knew that he grew, but I had never seen film of him, and oh my goodness, could this dude get after it. Shout out to Jerry Krause for getting him in the part of the draft where he did, but also Scottie Pippen, I think we saw the dark side of it towards the end when he just flat out refused to play in that final season. And it's kind of the thing where I understand both sides. I'm very critical these days of NBA players because NBA players now, Anthony Davis will sign for $35 million a year, and then halfway through his contract decides, I don't want to play for this team anymore. Or Carmelo Anthony did that. Or whoever, Kyrie Irving demanded a trade. And so with Scottie Pippen, I can't not criticize him for demanding a trade, and I can't not criticize him because they told him not to sign a 7-year contract. At the same time, the guy was the 122nd highest paid player in the NBA, the 6th highest paid player on the Bulls. That is insane, and so that was unreal. I did think, by the way, that was the greatest line in the documentary where they asked him about having surgery on his ankle towards training camp, and he said, well, excuse my French for people who are listening with children, but he did say, well, I'm not going to fuck up my summer. Which isn't that that's like the quarantine anthem of 2020, by the way. Well, whatever, but let's just not fuck up the summer. Let's get this done so we don't fuck up the summer. I just want to go to the beach a couple times, okay? So that was the Scottie Pippen thought. The final thought that I had, the big thought, I cannot believe that Jerry Krause is the guy that screwed this whole franchise up. I mean, think about this. You have Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Phil Jackson. And Bulls management decided, you know what? Those guys are all good. They're fine. Whatever. But, we're rolling the dice with this Jerry Krause guy. And I'm not saying Jerry Krause didn't do good and he drafted Michael Jordan, he traded for Scottie Pippen, so credit to Jerry Krause. But this guy, the fact that they allowed the organization to be torn down so that Jerry Krause could rebuild it, are you kidding me? And I vaguely remember this stuff because I remember they drafted Elton Brand. I remember they traded Elton Brand for Eddie Curry and Tyson Chandler. I get all that. But the fact that they had Michael Jordan in his mid-30s, Scottie Pippen in his late 20s, early 30s, Phil Jackson, who we didn't know was the greatest coach of all time, but we had a pretty good idea. He knew what he was doing. And they said, you know what? Those guys are fine, but let's just stick with Jerry Krause knows what he's doing. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That was the insane part. How are you going to let Jerry Krause decide this? Do you guys know who Bob Myers is? Bob Myers, you probably don't. Bob Myers is the general manager of the Golden State Warriors. Imagine after last season if the Golden State Warriors said, you know what? This Steph guy is good and Clay is good, and I think this Steve Kerr guy knows what he's doing, but we're gonna get rid of all those guys to keep this Bob Myers guy. If it was Bob Myers versus Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Steve Kerr, you know who the Golden State Warriors are keeping? They're keeping the 2 Hall of Fame players and the Hall of Fame coach. Not the GM nobody's ever heard of. So those were my big takeaways. One, I think the debate is over. I just don't think you can watch MJ, everything that he did, the competitiveness that he had, the will to win that he had. I don't think you can watch that and make the argument for anyone else. And this isn't, again, a tear down LeBron thing. This is an elevate Michael Jordan thing. The second thing, man, oh man, oh man, that team was popular. Third was Scottie Pippen. Did not realize how bad it got. And the fourth, I can't believe Jerry Krause, man. I really can't. So those were kind of my big takeaways. I would add a couple other things that I thought were pretty clever from the documentary. One, shout out to Michael Jordan's mom, who looks like she's about 42 years old. She looks like she could have, children at a bake sale selling Girl Scout cookies. Unbelievable, beautiful woman. Does not look like she could possibly be Michael Jordan's son. Love the part where Michael Jordan said, please send stamps, Mom. Typical teenage thing, whatever. I thought the stuff in North Carolina was cool, all that. Roy Williams being left speechless was pretty incredible. I also thought the interactions early with Jerry Krause were kind of funny. Michael Jordan talking about, we have to lower the hoop for you, all that stuff. I did think it obviously got a little mean-spirited towards the end with Scottie Pippen. So